Hi everyone, welcome back to another TFT Masterclass. I'm Upsetmax. Today we are going to be doing a patch rundown on the new patch 14.10. This is a patch scheduled to drop in 2 days on May 15th, and this class will be telling you everything you need to know about the new patch. So let's get straight into it. We are going to have a couple of different topics today. We are going to be talking about the system and encounters, traits and unit changes, and then finish off with items and augment changes. Technically, this is going to be including the radiant items and the artifact items as well. Hopefully, this class will give you everything you need to know to get a head start on the new patch and hopefully help you top 4 and get that LP. We're going to end off with a recap at the very end and then have a Q&A for any one of those who are watching this in the TFT Training Grounds Discord channel live. So let's get straight into it. Starting off with the system and encounter changes, there is going to be one of each. So the first one for systems is going to be a change to the prismatic orbs. So currently on this patch, the orb drop frequency is quite high and the orb value is averaging about a 24 gold. So now we are going to be, or not we, but they will be balancing it out a bit where the orb value is going to be increased to 40 gold and the frequency is going to be decreased. So now because the orb will be dropping less often, it will be kind of more exciting when it does, and it will definitely yield a much higher gold value with one of these 8 cash outs provided within this table. So that's the first one for prismatic orbs. And then for the encounters is going to be talking about the Aatrox encounter. Basically, the HP granted is going to be going from 15 to 10, which means that now the other options of gold or XP have higher value depending on your spots. It's not always going to be, or at least not most of the time, going to be taking just HP all the time because 15 HP was so good. So those are the first changes for the system and the encounters. Moving on, we are going to be talking about the first set of traits. So a lot of these buff to traits are going to be for the traits that are not played too often for vertical. Apart from, so starting with Behemoth, apart from the Shen, like going up to 6 Behemoths, the trait was just not played that much, and also the trait just wasn't that spectacular. So now the buff duration is going from 5 to 8 for the Behemoth buff, and then 6 Behemoth gets a little bit of extra armor and magic resist. Exalted is going to be getting a base damage amp from 5 to 7. So this is actually pretty good. Bonus damage is bonus damage, and sometimes if the Exalted fits very cleanly onto your board, you can cook up some pretty strong boards. So getting a little bit of extra damage is always great. Ghostly, the instances to spawn ghosts, so this is either getting attacked or attacking, has gone from 6 to 5. So this is actually going to be quite good. Remember, this is per ghostly units, so you will be spawning out those ghostly specters a lot faster now and being able to capitalize off of the enemies taking bonus damage from the specters. Moving on, 5 Ink Shadow has received a buff, so 5 extra percentage of bonus damage and 5% of bonus DR per Ink Shadow unit at the 5 breakpoint. Hopefully this will help us get to the 7 breakpoint a lot healthier and a lot cleaner. Vertical Mythic buff for the base AD and AP at all the breakpoints, so that should be pretty good. Playing Vertical Mythic. Our first nerf is going to be to 4 Porcelain. The damage reduction and the attack speed is going down actually just a little bit, so 35 to 33 and then 60 down to 55. It's not too crazy, but there will be other nerfs towards the Porcelain Invoker Ash composition. And then last but not least is our Reaper changes. So the base crit gain is going from 20 to 25%, and then the 4-piece true damage, it was previously nerfed from 50 to 45, but now that Yone is not a meta, I say we, but they are going from 45 to 50% and bringing it back up to speed. So these were the first changes to the traits. And then moving on, we have our second page here. So Sniper, a little bit of a composition buff to the Ash, Porcelain, Warden, Invoker composition. Damage per hex is increasing per breakpoint. The next one is going to be the Story Weaver. So first off, the 5 Story Weaver Kale ability damage is going up from 225 to 250. The tomes are going to be referring to the 7 Story Weaver Kale. So the Tome of Swiftness is going to be the red attack speed Kale. If you choose this now, the damage increase is going from 10% to 20%, so a full 100% increase of damage. This is just going to be just from the Kale, so now Kale now does 20% bonus damage. And then the Mending, so the green being able to revive is going from 8 to 7 seconds. So this is putting it, I would say, like about on par compared to the blue tome of the AoE. So now this will give you different options from your 7-story Weaver of which one to pick. We're getting a nerf to the 4 trick shots, where the 4-piece bonus damage is going from 60 to 50%. So this is directly targeting the 4 trick shot Kaisa Zaya composition. It will just be doing less damage. Umbral is receiving a nerf to the 6 and the 9 breakpoints. Sorry about that. It's actually going from the 4 to the 6 breakpoints, where the shield is just going down from 50 at the 4 breakpoint and 100 at the 6 breakpoints. Technically also the 6 and the 9 breakpoint. So just a little bit of less shield for vertical umbral. And then finalizing is going to be warden buffs. The start of combat DR is going up 3%. So now they will be taking 18% less damage at the start of combat for a bit. And then the base DR is going up at 4 and 6 warden. So who knows what will happen to the Ash composition. There's going to be a lot of nerfs to the Porcelain and Invoker version. Perhaps Warden Ash will be back. We'll just have to see. So that is everything for the traits. Moving on to our units now, we're going to start off with the 1-cost units. So after evaluating all the changes, we've concluded that the Faded and the Story Weaver opener is going to be quite strong as they have received some buffs. So Ari was already quite a capable unit. Now the initial spell damage and the secondary damage have both been buffed. So Ari is going to be a very strong 1-cost unit early and just throughout the game in general. Along with Yasuo, who has received a bit of a change. So now the Faded shield bonus is going down 50 per unit that it's linked to. Or if you have five faded, then every unit has 50 less starting shield. However, his individual base spell shield has been increased. So regardless of the changes to Yasuo, Ari has just received a pretty big buff. So the Faded opener was already pretty decent, now it's going to be even stronger. And for Story Weaver, we have a bit of a mana buff to Garen, which is great. And then we're either playing Jax or Rek'Sai, depending on whatever we have to start, and if we don't have a Teemo, or maybe we're just carry Xayah. Regardless, these are both units that can fit into their early Story Weaver. And we're getting an extra 30 armor and magic resist on Jax, which is quite good. And then for Rek'Sai, we're getting a mana buff and extra spell armor and magic resist for her as well. So either we're playing Jax to get Warden with Garen, or we're playing Rek'Sai to get Bruiser with Riven. Regardless, the entire line, at least the opener line, has been getting a buff and should be pretty good. And both of these should be able to contend with the Darius Heavenly Umbral Duelist line as well. A bit of a buff to Kobuko. This is only affecting Lucky Paws, basically. Nothing else about that. So these are the 1-cost units and how that will affect the upcoming meta. Moving on to 2-cost, Aatrox is receiving quite a big buff and quite a big change. So technically this unit is classified as a magic fighter. Previously, he is just classified as a trait bot for Ghostly Ink Shadow or Bruiser, casts once, dies, and then that's it. So the changes that they've done is now attack speed is going to be up, or at least increased. A large mana buff from 40 to 90 to 0 to 60, so now this unit will be casting a lot more often. However, to compensate, the spell healing is decreased. So overall, this unit has less sustain. However, it will be casting a lot more frequently and outputting a lot more damage, and truly now fits the role of a magic fighter. Gnar, a little bit of a nerf to his AD. Kindred now has increased primary spell damage, and the unit currently in the meta is doing quite well based off of the comps. Either it's Dryad or like vertical, like Gnarreal Dryad. Most of the time it's played in the Faded Dryad composition, where Kindred benefits quite a lot because Ari provides AP, which Kindred appreciates and really likes, and then Syndra provides percentage bonus damage, which Kindred will also benefit from. So that's why Kindred's been doing so well. Actually outputs a lot of damage in the 5 Faded 4 Dryad composition. So but apart from that, Kindred was not performing too well individually, hence the buffs and the damage. And then the very last one is the Nico healing has been increased at all breakpoints, so this just helps out her out either in any composition she is, Arcanist, Heavenly, and also her hero augments. Pop Blossom should be a lot stronger now and being able to scale a lot harder into each round, or at least scale a lot easier for each round and get to the higher AoE explosions. So those were the 2-cost changes. Moving on to the 2 and 3-cost changes, the very last one is just Teemo getting a damage boost at every breakpoint. Yorick is getting a little bit of a mana buff. This is to compensate his nerf and the hero augment that we will talk about later. Soraka's buff is only for her primary spell damage, which is just the target that she is currently attacking, and it's going to be single targets. So now, hopefully this will help any composition that uses Soraka get through the front line a little bit easier. The AoE stays the same, it's just the single target portion of her damage that is increased. And then Zoe, kind of opposite. Now the single target portion of her damage is decreased. So you see here a decrease in the primary spell damage. However, her ricochet damage is greatly increased. So the initial cast will do less damage. It already does a pretty decent amount of damage anyway. And now the bounces will deal a lot more. You see, even at 3-star, the base is going up a 100 per ricochet. So that's going to be quite good. So those are the changes for the 1 to 3 cost units. Moving on to the 4 cost units now, we have quite a lot of nerfs. So starting off with Annie is going to be the first unit on the chopping block, minus 50 HP, minus 1% healing, and 3 seconds down on the debuff duration for her wounds. Also 3-star Annie is getting a nerf, as Annie was one of the best 3-star 4 costs, if not the best. So some nerfs to Annie. Kayn is going to be getting a durability nerf, so 100 less HP and 5 armor and magic resist nerf. It used to be at 1070 2 patches ago, so now we are down 15 resistance, but we're at least up 100 HP. A little bit of a minor Lilia targeting buff. So now this unit should be throwing her orbs towards more cluster of units and hitting more enemies rather than just throwing the orb towards just this one unit in the corner, etc. And then last but not least, Sylas being one of the most flexible units in the game right now, fitting into so many compositions. Umbral, Sage, Sylas, item holder, and Heavenly, fitting into the 4 bruiser 4 trick shot, is getting a nerf to his HP, and then 10 off of his spell healing at the 1 and 2 star. So those were the first rounds of nerfs for the 4 cost units. And then we have more here for 4 cost units, just the base health. So Ashe going down 50, Galio down 50, Kai'Sa down 50, Lee Sin and Ornn both get hit for 100, and then Nautilus is getting hit for 50. So you see here, I think like one of the only 4 costs that didn't get changed, or at least like buffed a little bit. Morgana was not changed, and then Lilia just gets a little bit of a buff. Mainly it's just nerfs all around for 4 cost units regarding health, or even more like regarding the resistance as well. So not looking too great for 4 costs right now, but they were buffed pretty hard a couple patches ago with the HP. So now they are just bouncing out a bit. A few more nerfs to the 5 cost units. So Lysandra, the main changes is the AoE portion of her kit is removed, and now she will no longer throw units that survived her pot. So now Lysandra is purely just a single target stun, and even though her mana is buffed, the unit is not as good as she used to be. Definitely a former shell, and if you get her early, hopefully you farm a couple items and then replace her for a better unit that fits your board. Sets, mana buff, cast more often, pretty good. And then Xayah gets a base 80 nerf, going down from 85 all the way down to 80. So those are all the changes to the units. We're going to move on to the artifacts now. So last patch, when all of the artifacts were sent out, only a few of them, especially like Suspicious Trenchcoat, were doing well. The majority of them were actually performing quite poor. So they are receiving a lot of slight buffs to all of those that weren't doing too well. You see here, it's not too much, like Ember procs going down or going up 10% attack speed. So not too crazy. Hopefully these artifacts will be a bit more balanced and being able to used more often rather than in their very niche scenarios. The radiant items are going to be getting a bit of a balance. So weaker radiants such as Absolution, Jackshow, Quick as Silver, Royal Crown Guard, and Warmock's Pride weren't doing too well, so they all received buffs. And then the stronger radiants, which are the burn/wound ones, so Crest of Cinders and Mormorella Nomcon, they are getting nerfs. The weaker support augments, which are the Eternal Flame, Knight's Vow, and especially Spite, are all getting buffs, and at least Spite is getting a pretty good decent one, going from 30% ally 80 and AP all the way up to 50%. So if you're able to utilize this, hopefully this support item will be a little bit better. Okay, so we are going to end off with our augments here, starting off with silver. We have our branching out, where the turns delayed is going down to 0. So now you'll immediately get your branching out random emblem, give you some direction for the game rather than just having to sack one round before you even given direction. Golden Remover can appear on 4-2. Moving on to gold augments, Ghostly, Haunted House. The number of ghosts is getting doubled, going Going from 1 to 2 ghosts is pretty good, getting 100% increase. And remember, this is per ghostly unit as well. So hopefully there's going to be some sort of ghostly line we could play, especially with the Aatrox changes. For grab bag, a little bit more gold. Two of the best combat augment performing right now are the Inspiring Epitaph and the Little Buddies augments. They are both getting a nerf. So the shield ratio going down from 25% max health to 20% max health. This was just really strong with the amount of max HP buffs going to the 4 cost units, so they just synergize very well. That's why Epitaph stats were just so good. So now both are getting a hit. The 4 cost health was going down, and also the health to shield ratio is going down as well. Little buddies, 10 less HP per buddy. This is going to affect the Heavenly Kane slash like Lee Sin comp, and the Syndra comp, and also the Trick Shot Bruiser version of the Kai's composition. Long shot, a little bit more HP for the snipers. Low interest rate is now has a capped interest at 4 gold. So now you can at least get to 40 gold to get your 4 gold per round if you're at least here. And then you also get your +2 per round just from the augment in itself. Maybe this will make low interest rates good. We'll see. Moving on to some more nerfs. Midnight Siphon, the Yorick hero augment going down from 25 to 20% max health damage. At least Yorick has a little bit of a buff where he was going from 90 to 80 max mana. However, we are now getting a damage nerf as well. Mulched, I don't like this, at least for the dried line. I think it's quite a big deal where the bonus damage is getting halved. The dried line was already seeing a bit of a problem because a lot of players were picking up the Nars and the Kindreds for their faded Syndra composition. So now I don't think the dried line is going to be that good. This change also, like, mainly from this change, just Mulch was one of the reasons why you would play Dryad, and now Mulch is getting touched as well. Ending off here is the gold augments that provide gold. So reinforcements getting 4 more gold here, Stars Are Born getting 2 extra gold, and then Scapegoat getting 2 extra initial gold as well. Okay, we're at our last slide here, Prismatic Augments. Call to Chaos. One of the cash outs is getting 4 random emblems. So now you will be getting 1 extra emblem, so at least 5 random emblems. Pretty good. Hopefully you high roll something. Lightning Forge, I think, is pretty decent buff. Going from 10 rounds per artifact to 8 rounds is quite good. You're able to get your artifacts a lot earlier, and that will spike your board. Prismatic Ticket, the chance to proc, going from 45% to 50% is actually a pretty big deal. It's a lot of effective gold. However, it's only pretty useful in reroll metas, or at least where a lot of reroll compositions are viable. So if that does become the case of the upcoming patch, then this augment should at least be pretty decent. One thing to note, Shopping Spree is taking a large nerf here where you will receive 3 gold immediately instead of the 1 gold per round. The 1 gold per round was really good because it'll let you hit a lot of early interest breakpoints, which basically, like, the saying is like 10 makes 20, 20 makes 30, 30 makes 40, etc. Now the 3 gold immediately instead of this, it'll help you out for the first couple rounds, but then you will eventually lose that scaling of that 1 gold per round, and it's just going to be not as good as it used to be. Okay, and that is everything for today. So one thing to note, remember that all of these slides are taken from the Mort Dog patch notes. So I will include that in the video if you are, or in the description if you want to check out the full version and his version. I'm just doing an analysis of it. Final summary here, there are a lot of 1 to 3 cost unit buffs. There were a couple nerfs, a couple changes, but most of the units between 1 to 3 cost that were touched upon were all buffed. On the other hand, the 4 and 5 cost units, many of them were nerfed. Whether this was just max HP, whether this went even further into like resistances or just like kit change, we're seeing more of a balance where the 4 and 5 costs are not going to be as oppressive, and the 1 to 3 costs will have some open lines that perhaps that we can play. And then even more balancing on the artifacts, items, on the artifacts and item side. So the poor performing augments, they got buffed. Hopefully they will be able to be played a little bit more and not just in their niche scenarios. And then poor performing radiant items got buffed, and the good performing radiant items got nerfed. So I would say this patch in general, very good. There's going to be opening up a lot of different lines instead of just playing like the strongest ones, or at least like high rolling the strongest line and then just being able to play that. There should be a lot of things that we could play, and it's looking pretty good. So that should be everything for this patch 14.10 rundown. If you are watching this live, then we're going to be entering the Q&A session. And if you're watching this on YouTube, definitely make sure to check out the description and join the Training Grounds Discord channel so you can check out these classes live, stay after for the questions and any extra info. And that's everything. So thank you everyone so much for watching. I hope you have a great night. Best of luck in your games, and I will see you all next time.